And so the great glorious gift of life is that it is offering us this possibility to undivide where we have learnt to divide. It's offering us the possibility to come into the wholeness of heart and the remembrance that is always available in the heart of utter wholeness, to remember the light that we are, the love that we are, and that everything that flows as life is a flow of grace that is inviting us to have the opportunity to see where there is division, and that we have the power and capacity to undivide and discover that there is nowhere that the light is not, there is nowhere that the glory is not. And this is where we have this incredible power to either play the victim and to feel like life is happening to us, or we can open to these places where we feel resistance or stress or struggle, and we can invoke the light of the heart, the light of our knowing, to illuminate and shine upon the wholeness of the moment, that we have this capacity to undivide the moment and open. To remain in the frequency of openness when there might be a sense of wanting to close. And that sense of wanting to close can come in as a feeling of contraction or a sense of projection, of blame, or entering into a story, trying to push away the feelings that are naturally arising. But the glory of the human life is that we have this incredible capacity to open to the true nature, the absolute presence of being, the open reality. And we also have the capacity to bring the light that we are and shine the light into every single fiber and thread of our sense of life and existence, so that we live in the remembrance of union. We live as the light, we live as love. And that as we open to the presence of being, in the stillness, in the silence, in the wide openness of the heart that knows, that we drop into the frequency of remembrance, the resonance of remembrance. And in the resonance of remembrance, we feel the openness and the freedom. We feel the naturalness, the truth of who we are. We could say the true nature. And yet the true nature is not a nature that excludes anything. It's not a true nature that is absolute and transcendent and is pushing away or dividing. The true nature is the all-inclusive reality. It's the wide openness of the heart that knows, and that we have this incredible capacity to open into the remembrance, the frequency of remembrance, and to be the light, the illuminating principle that shines upon everything that feels to be discordant, that feels to be somehow a resistance or a challenge, seems to be a place where the glory is not, seems to be a place that God is not, seems to be a place where the light is not. These are the places where the magic can really happen. And that it's not a doing, it's not a project. It's about being the light, and as the light, having the capacity to illuminate. And in a way, that's the simplicity, the naturalness and simplicity of true nature, is to be the light and to shine upon everything that seems to be not included in the light, or not maybe just radiantly shining in the moment. To be the light that illuminates the whole moment. It's incredibly potent to realize the power that we actually have, because so much of the human experience can be a deeply disempowering experience, that we've learned to follow strategies of protection and needs met structures. We've learned to try to be seen, try to be heard, try to be successful. We've learned to be the doer of our experience. And in that, we have learned to leave the deepest, truest, intuitive knowing of the heart. And of course, the deepest intuitive knowing of the heart is of the true nature. It's not a knowing that knows information, and yet it knows everything. It holds everything. But the only knowing that is necessary to resonate at is the resonance of the heart's remembrance of the frequency of being, of just being yourself. And the frequency of being yourself is just being here now, just as you are, open, still, silent, just the presence of being. That when we drop into the remembrance of the presence of being, we drop into the unified field. We drop into remember the oneness. We remember that we are not divided from the whole. We remember that there's this sanctuary, this sacred sanctuary, this simple holiness of being that is just still and silent. It is this presence that is ever free. And in this glorious unfolding of the human experience, we come to realize that true healing isn't a doing, and true healing isn't something that fixes and changes. It's actually to realize reality. It's actually to live and resonate as reality, and to transform our lived experience from one of feeling divided from wholeness, one of feeling stress and struggle and division, to alchemizing and transmuting and transforming the lived experience to the frequency of love, and shifting the perspective to recognize the undivided heart. And of course, in the wilds of the human experience, we get initiated and carried through all kinds of tests and experiences that challenge us to the depths of our being, to keep facing the places that feel divided, in order to shine a light and actually bring these parts of ourself home. It's very powerful, you see. It's not disempowering the experience of life. It's actually incredibly empowering in the truest way that empowerment happens, is the recognition that we're absolutely fully equipped to live as love, live as a divine reality. We're fully equipped for freedom. That we're fully equipped in the deep intimacy of our internal functioning, in the deep intimacy of the heart. That if we don't abandon our own heart in the face of life, we have the power to face life. We have the power to receive life, to flow as life, and to realize that true heart is this knowing of reality, this knowing of love, knowing of a love that can never be divided. It cannot be divided by negative scripts or stories. It cannot be divided by experience. It cannot be divided by anything that the mind creates. It cannot even be divided by the projected world and the creation. That ultimately the power that resides in the heart is that we are the creator of the lived experience. And either we are living in reality or we're living in a projected world. And the projected world will feel like stress and strain because the projected world is projecting in order to appear as a creation that offers us the possibility for reclaiming the power of our true naturalness and bringing all of the threads of ourself home to the light, back to the illumined principle, back to the remembrance of a heart that is free and shining radiantly as the glory. And such a huge part of this unfolding is the recognition that we're not expected to go from the depths of the human experience and the tangle to absolute freedom in a millisecond. Otherwise, we failed. That the whole lived experience is part of the grace of the unfolding. That there's never anything wrong. And that such a huge part of the human experience and what keeps us bound in the sense of division is that we are held in these ideas and beliefs and concepts that there's something wrong with us, that we've done something wrong, and that ultimately we are sinners, and that we need to spend our lived experience trying to fix our sinful ways in order to receive some kind of redemption. But the truth is that redemption is so much closer than we imagine. Redemption actually isn't something that we have to work for. It's something that we realize in our own heart, that we realize that we hold the powerful frequency of love in the heart's knowing, and that we can open to redemptive love within our own heart. Reconnecting to the divine in our own heart, we open to a redemptive love that restores the dignity of the most broken and dark places in our human experience, that we open to the power of the heart, the power of love. We open to the frequency of love that is the power that can change everything. But the changing of everything is not a fixing of what we imagine is broken. The changing of everything is the changing of the perspective, from a perspective of seeing division, fragmentation, and brokenness that I need to fix, to seeing an undivided whole, seeing life as a field of grace. And that when we are aligned and attuned with the field of grace, the frequency of grace, that we see all of life is moving for us, with us, as us, that we are this life, and that life is the incredible power of transformation. Life itself is transformation. That the living of life is the transformation. It's not the fixing. It's not the changing. It's not the doing. It's the intimacy of true transformation. And it's coming to the remembrance in the heart of what the divine is. The reconnection to the source, reconnection to divinity, reconnection to innocence, reconnecting to the original frequency of grace, of love, of the light, the radiant light that is always whole and undivided. That as we connect or sense into a reconnection, we discover that all that has been missing in the life has been the connection to the divine. And that when we restore the connection to the divine, that we restore a sense of faith and knowing of the heart, and we restore the remembrance that all of life is grace. And we start to move in this openness and receptivity, this open receptivity to life. Because we know that the true nature that we are is this simple presence, the still, silent, simple, aware presence. That we're the awareness of life. The awareness of life is never touched by life. And this is our sanctuary. This is the freedom, is the knowing that we're never touched by life. That we're always safe, we're always free, and the heart is always at peace. However turbulent the waters of life may seem to be, that there is this knowing in the heart that is ever peaceful. And once we have this sense of being anchored in this remembrance and this knowing that the whole of life is grace, we are empowered with the principle of light that can illuminate and bring everything home. And then it starts to feel like the most incredible, extraordinary, wild adventure, deeply touching adventure, right? It's this deeply touching, poignant, profound adventure that we're willing to journey into. We're willing to venture into the uncharted territories of our own heart. And we start to recognize that life, far from being a struggle, a strain, a stress, is this invitation into the wilds of our own heart, into the places of our own heart, into the intimacy of our own heart that we've never actually met yet. That we're coming to realize that the meeting, the intimacy, the longing of the heart isn't actually with the external world. It's with the absolute depths of our own silent heart's knowing. And that the extraordinary adventure of life is calling us into ourselves, into the depths of our heart, to discover that whatever is happening on the surface of life, that the heart is always radiantly shining. That whatever is happening, the heart is always somehow incredibly joyful and peaceful and deeply immersed in the knowing of itself. And that it's unshakable and powerful to know this, to be in this knowing. And it allows the living of life to be this wild adventure that is carrying us into the infinite field of possibility that we could never have imagined. and we are given and things are taken. It's like the heart gets filled and the heart feels like it's broken open, and the heart gets filled and it feels like it's broken open. And yet it's like the heart gets filled in order to open. It's like it's not really being broken in the way we imagine. It's being stretched and opened. We're being given a divine workout to open to deeper and deeper intimacies that we're never really losing. We're never really being broken. We're being worked by being stretched beyond the capacity that we ever imagined that we could have. And that sometimes that feels really hard and intense and challenging. But the more we recognize the grace that this all is, we recognize that whatever is happening is somehow an opportunity to undivide the heart, to come into a deeper sense of wholeness, to undivide the life, that we're in this powerful journey of undividing the life, to truly live right on the surface of life as the light, as the embodiment of love that shines and welcomes it all, in order to live this integrated life and to be in the most profound service to the whole. That we come to realize that just the living of life is the greatest service. Living of life that is a transformative life is the greatest service to the whole. That as we truly live and we truly open and we truly meet and we truly burn and we truly feel and we truly shine in the face of it all, that we start to live in a sense of vibrancy and vitality that we could never have imagined. Because so much of the human experience can actually be living so numbed. And we get given what it takes to unnumb, right? To bring us, feel this. And to start with, we feel, whoa there, that's too much. This heart cannot bear that. But we come to realize that the heart of grace can bear it all, and it stretches and it widens. And we realize that our capacity is infinite, that our capacity is completely unbounded, and that our capacity is not even of time and space, that our capacity is eternal, and that we are this life, infinite and eternal, and we have capacity beyond what we could ever have imagined. That this life is multidimensional, and there's this freedom to live a multidimensional sense of freedom, light and love. And that as we reconnect in the presence that is still and silent, the presence of being, and we reconnect with the source that we can call the divine, we can call God, we can call the glory, the divine mother, and we can use whatever words, whatever names that we want to use for this frequency of wholeness that feel resonant and alive in our heart. And yet ultimately, the named is also the nameless. That it doesn't matter if we give it a name or that we recognize it as the Anam, the nameless. It's the frequency of wholeness. It's the frequency of truth. And as we open to the presence of being, just to resonate at the frequency of being is like a portal, an opening to this reconnection and remembrance of our divinity, our innocence, our goodness, our essential goodness. And we find the goodness of the glory is running after us, is chasing us, like love is running after us. And the running after plays us life. It plays us all of life. That it's running after us and inviting us to open to it all, to receive it all. Stop running, right? Stop trying to get away. Stop trying to get away. Stop and be taken, be embraced. Feel the blessing of reconnection. Feel the light shining in your heart. Feel the blessing of the stop. Bless the one that's been running. Bless the one that has been running. And bless the one that is willing to stop and be embraced. Bless the heart that is willing to recognize that the light is always shining, that the radiance is always here. Bless the heart that is courageous and willing to face it all in order to truly and deeply drop into the profound knowing. And that knowing is the knowing of the being, the knowing of the one, the knowing of the grace that is the grace that we are one with. And so as the words come, it's about feeling the resonance in your heart that knows that the words are not offering you something that you don't already know in the deepest depths of your heart, of your being. That as the words come, it's to feel the aliveness of your own knowing and the attunement to your own knowing. And to feel in that attunement, there's a power in the knowing of your own heart. There's a dropping into the frequency of the heart's knowing. And this feels like freedom. It feels like peace. And it can also feel very alive. It can feel like life itself. It can feel vibrant and bright. And it can feel deeply silent and peaceful. And it can somehow feel like both at the same time. That it's not about achieving anything or getting some kind of new experience. It's about joining in the oneness, joining in the heart that knows, joining in the beauty of the heart that knows, that the heart is essentially one heart, and the heart knows itself, that the heart's knowing is the knowing of the one self, the knowing of the one being, and that knowing is the knowing of love, that love in truth is openness. And so as we come to realize that the project of the human life is about undividing the life, releasing the protections and the conditionings, releasing all of the built up boundaries to the wide open field of love, to the wide open luminance and radiance of the divine light. That as we come to remember that the light is shining, it's to join with the knowing of your heart, the spark in your heart, the light in your heart, or the wild blazing fire of the heart, however it feels, is to join with it and recognize that you have this knowing inside, and to join in this knowing is to enter a deeper intimacy with the presence of being that you are in truth. And we could say, so you're not the person, you're not divided, you're not You're not the separate one. You're not the character. And it's true that you're not. But it's not about getting away from the person, the character. It's about coming to realize that you're something that is undivided and whole. You're not a thing. You're a frequency. And when you know yourself as the frequency, you realize at the frequency level that everything that you thought you were is also included, that the person, the character, the life, all of that is included at a frequency level. We're not getting away from anything. We're not cutting off the arms and the legs. We're recognizing that what we are is not a concrete frequency that is dense as a body mind, that we're a much finer frequency that includes the body mind, but when we include it at the essence frequency, we realize that we're not bound by the body mind. We actually embrace the body mind in a completely different way, that we're not the thoughts and we're not the physicality in limitation, in isolation, right? We're not the story of me, but the body and the mind at essence frequency level are completely included. Everything is included. How could it not be? How could there be anywhere that God is not? How could it be that there is anywhere that the light is not shining? And our work is to discover how the light is shining everywhere. But the first opening has to be to the remembrance of the light in order to be the light that is the principle of illumination. It's like you've got to turn on the torch to be able to see, right? So in the sense of what seems to be dark or separated or divided, we turn on the torch, and the torch is your heart's knowing. The torch is the presence of being. You turn on the light that you are. And when you are connected and attuned as the light of your own knowing, you realize that you have the power and capacity to illuminate all of the life, all that you are, and come into an illumined intimacy with all that you are, to receive all of yourself. And then it's about life just playing out and being the light of grace, meeting the places that feel to be discordant, meeting the places that seem to be in challenge or struggle or intensity, meeting the places that seem to be protected and resistant, and moving through the process of divine illumination, illuminating it all. So, as we come to the presence of being, we open to the light. The light is a frequency. It can feel very bright and luminous, but it's not a light of the world. It's a light of the heart. It's a light that is a luminosity and a radiant shining. And it is experienced in a direct way as the sense of being, the sense of presence. We could say that it's experienced as the sense of awareness. That which is aware is the light. It's a light of awareness. It's an illumination. So we're not looking for big phenomenal experiences of light that the mind can be looking for. We're really opening to the sense of presence first, the presence of being, the presence, the sense of being, the sense of just being here, the stillness, the silence, the sense of open freedom. And this is the light. This is the love. But the knowing of it as the light, as the love, can just take a little unfolding, and it's to know that the source of it all, the wisdom, is taking care of how it unfolds uniquely for each being. And it brings online the knowing, oh, okay, this is the light. Okay, this is love. Or, oh, yes, this is the presence of being. This is the being knowing its own beingness. Because all of this recognition is not happening in the mind frequency or the body frequency. It's happening in the subtle body frequency. It's happening in the light body. And so that is why, as the speaking comes, it's about attunement. And the attunement brings an attuned recognition and an activation and illumination of the subtle body, of the light body. Where the knowing is, that the knowing is in the subtle body, that the knowing cannot be in the mind. But where the knowing is, let's say, the sense of being the being and how the being knows itself without needing to access the mind, the sense of presence that is present to itself. This is the subtle body and its subtle perception that brings online this knowing. And as we refine the subtle body, we're refining the consciousness. We could also call it refining the nervous system, right? So there's lots of different ways of speaking about it, and words don't really matter. And this vehicle and the way that it expresses is all about offering big picture. It also offers fine details, but in the bigger picture, we use a lot of different words for the same thing so that it's activated in all systems. Because the words, it's not the words and the meaning of the words, but the words get used as vehicles of attunement. We could say the words get used as like tuning forks, and each being attunes to different word frequencies, even though ultimately the frequency is one same frequency. Different words will create activation in different systems. So essentially, this subtle body, the light body, is the body of consciousness. It's the nervous system. And as the speaking comes, the frequency transmission is activating, inviting attunement to the consciousness and the nervous system, the subtle body. It's activating and inviting attunement, and it brings a transmission to attune with, but it's not giving you something. It's not sprinkling fairy dust into your system. It's inviting that you attune and that we join in that frequency. Now, every being has a slightly different capacity. So there are different fine, let's say, fineness, subtleties of frequency that we join in. And that's what presents as our capacity or our openness. But essentially, we're joining in the one field of grace. And that's the beauty, that every being has access to this field and can join and can open to and receive then the grace of our joining, because then the field in our joining receives the flow of all of our frequencies, the transmission of all of our frequencies, and starts to reverberate as one field. And then we start to be upgraded and refined at the finest frequency of the field. And it's like a rebalancing that's happening. The capacity that we're already open to, and the capacity of the transmission frequency, the field frequency, starts to rebalance itself. right? So what we're open to, it's like we get fed and nourished, and we attune, and we upgrade, we're rebalancing. So there's this incredible refinement that happens in the field, in the subtle body, the nervous system, and the consciousness. And what that feels like is that our knowing deepens, our recognition deepens. It feels like we feel clearer and more rooted. And as we join, it's like maybe frequencies of mind and distraction start to fall away, and we feel more of a deep resting. We feel more clear in our remembrance. And that remembrance, we could say on a certain level, it totally belongs to you. But of course, the you that it belongs to is not a separate individual, but it is the unique point. It's the infinite unbounded being recognized and reverberating at the unique point. And the opening capacity that you have, you never lose the capacity that you've opened to, never. In this lifetime, the capacity that we've opened to is always here. And even if we feel like we're in the fog or in contraction, we have never lost the capacity that we've opened to. But it is like we're clearing the fog and coming to greater and greater sense of illumination and brightness. So it's like we're constantly polishing our capacity, because we already are divine wholeness. We already are. And the part of us that knows that is the means to polish the vehicle in conjunction with the play of life. So we need, it's like the tools for our polishing are the depth of our remembrance and the frequency that we resonate at, the knowing of our heart, the knowing of the being, our openness, in a way, our openness to the transcendent field, and the fineness, the awake field, and the frequency that our consciousness is resonating at, in conjunction with the play of life, and seeing in deep surrender that the whole play of life is a field of infinite possibility, of grace. It's a field that's offering us the possibility to open to, receive, embrace, and bless everything that arises. Because as we embrace, illuminate, and bless everything that arises in the life that feels discordant, we're in this process of undividing the life, right? Now, of course, life itself is undivided. So we could say we access the knowing of the undivided, the power of the undivided frequency in our own direct internal experience. We access the power of the principle that can undivide, that can illuminate and show us life is not divided. There's no place that the glory is not. We access that, and then in the living of life, we start to shine that light of our knowing upon everything. And this rebalancing happening, this alchemy that happens in the system, is that as we shine the light and we meet the feelings and sensations and we transmute and we deeply bless in the most profound embrace everything that the mind and the me wants to resist and protect and have a story or a blame or a projection, all the places that we think there's something wrong, where we're holding shame and guilt and doubt, we bless and illuminate everything. Fiber by fiber, thread by thread, we illuminate and bless the whole of our life. And by this, we undivide the life. What an extraordinary possibility that we have the power to undivide the life by accessing the means. And the means is the deep, still, silent presence of being, the fine frequency of the light. We turn the light on. And here, as we are joined in the field, the principle of illumination here is refining the nervous system in the field, and the capacity that you are joined in the field, the nervous system is being refined. There's more light coming in. The system gets upgraded to be able to hold and receive more light, to be able to shine with more radiance. The frequency gets refined, that you're able to resonate and reside at a finer frequency. And simultaneously, the glory of our joining together like this is that as we open and refine to the more subtle frequencies of the light and our systems are upgraded, we're also healing the field. The light is illuminating and healing the field. So the light is the presence of a frequency that dances as a transmission, and that transmission of light starts to restore by illumination, by loving present illumination, starts to restore the discordant patterns in the field. By illumination, starts to unwind the discordant patterns and restore the remembrance of the essence frequency to the patterns of discordance. So where the patterns of light have taken shape and become kind of like objects, like thoughts and protections and ideas and concepts, where there are entangled holding patterns in the resting at this finer frequency, the healing starts to naturally happen because the frequency of the light naturally starts to illuminate. And that illumination is happening. In a way, it's shining upon, but the glory about how this communication actually happens is that it shines upon, but it shines from within. It shines its essence frequency, almost like a radiant nucleus of every cell, every fiber, every pattern. It's like, because everything is already the light and is just acting like it has some kind of veiling, it's kind of pretending that it's not light. It's light pretending I'm a shadow, but shadows are only present by virtue of the light, right? And when the light blasts, it's seen that the shadows are not objects. The shadows are not things. The light blasts and the shadows are seen to be just light. It's all seen to be light, right? It's the same with clouds, right? A cloud looks like a thing. The sun shines and the warmth and the brightness. You can see a cloud, but if a cloud is right in front of you, you can actually walk right through it because it's just air. It's just space. It just looks like it's an object. It looks like it's a veil, but the veil is not an actual thing. The mind imagines that's an object, that's a veil. But if a cloud is right here in front of you, you can walk right through it, right? A bird can fly through a cloud, a plane can fly through a cloud. And so it's the same principle. Nature shows us all of the principles. And what seems to be an object is never an object. It's always all light. So thoughts and protections, conditionings, and concepts, they seem to be objects, But when the field of light is at a certain frequency, it just starts to burn away or illuminate the shadows. And here it's without any doing. There's no doing. It's just an alchemical process that happens in the field of intelligence, that the consciousness is refining in the flows of intelligence are flowing and bringing more light frequency, a finer frequency that has the powerful transmission to illuminate. And it's in the field here, this whole entire field. And it starts to bring true healing. Healing happens by illumination. And the illumination is like the most incredible presence of love. It's the presence of openness. It's the presence of the unconditional. It's the presence that just loves you. It's the presence of the presence that just holds you. It's the presence of the presence that just feels safe because it feels whole. It holds the frequency of wholeness. It holds the frequency of spotless, perfect love. It holds the frequency that you belong, that you're one with this. This is your true nature. And so within the nervous system, there's natural relaxation and letting goes that happen in ways that we can't mentally make happen. We can't make surrender happen, but surrender happens in the presence of this fine frequency, in the frequency of wholeness, of the light, in the frequency of the light. And in a way, what's happening is that our systems are being upgraded and recalibrated and refined to be able to have the capacity to move through this process of illumination in more and more easeful, gentle ways in the living of life. So that we really come to recognize that life doesn't have to be as hard as we imagine, that we can actually be resting in the joy of the heart and allowing the wisdom light to shine and refine the life, and that maybe life can be joyous. Maybe life is actually joyous and beautiful and peaceful. And that when we're attuned with the true frequency of the essence of wholeness, that life living itself starts to be lived and recognized in the lived experience as something that is smooth and joyous and free and fun and just vibrant, exuberant, and radiantly shining. What it takes is that we open to this possibility and that we're not bound in the concept. We're not holding these frequencies of concept. Life has to be hard. I've got to do this. I've got to keep working at it. Because that's like turning away from the sun. It's like a cloud that says, oh, I just want to stay a cloud. I'm going to be a cloud and I'm going to really work hard at being a really good cloud. Whereas instead, we could say to the cloud school, you know, you don't have to just like quarantine yourself off and divide yourself off just in this idea that you're a cloud and you're just going to be the best cloud that you can be, and it's going to be hard and you're going to work and fight for it. You're going to battle your way through your cloud life. It's like we're saying you can just open to the sun and bless the presence of the sun and just bless everything that feels like a weather pattern. You can just bless it all. And I'm not even going to tell you what's going to happen, because why don't you have the fun adventure of finding out for yourself, Cloud, what it's like if you just turn to the sun and you just allow yourself to be melted, to be dissolved, right? This is how I would die into the love that I have for you, like pieces of cloud dissolve in sunlight, right? This is from Rumi. This is how I would die into the love I had for you. So we say to the cloud, die into the sunlight, right? Like pieces of cloud dissolve in sunlight. This is how I would die into the love I have for you. It's like let go into the love of the divine. Let go into the love of the light. Let go and be taken. Dissolve into the light. Bless the light. Welcome the light. And give up trying to fix and change. And be dissolved like pieces of cloud dissolving in sunlight. Be taken, be shown, be illuminated from the inside, right? So that's what's happening right now in our field. Pieces of cloud are dissolving in the sunlight of the illumination of our joining in the one heart, our joining in the fine frequency of love, of light, of wholeness. That we don't have to do anything but say yes and receive and bless it all. Great glory. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There is only you. I am one with you. There is only one. This life is undivided. If there is only one power, then all that is required, really? Really? That's all that's required? Is that I just stay, remain in your light, in your remembrance, and you take care of all the rest? Okay, okay, right? And then the life is just every moment that says, okay, great glory, there's only you. Okay, there's only you. There's only you. What if there's a willingness to just let go of thinking that we know better and let the wisdom light shine and take care of it all? What if life isn't as hard as we have been told that it is? What if we can move with grace and blessing and embrace as the light, as the love? What if we can embrace it all, bless it all, and remember there's only one, and that in truth life is undivided, and I have the power in this moment to move into a protection and divide and to battle, or I have this possibility to enter the natural flow of surrender, which in truth is actually the natural flow of devotion. It's life devoted to itself. It's love in devotion to itself. We have the possibility of recognizing, okay, love is just running after itself. It's coming back for itself, and it keeps coming back. Love is so in love with itself. Its devotion is so wholehearted that it just will keep coming back for itself, running after itself, chasing itself into the dark corners in order to illuminate and bring the remembrance in the flow of every life, every heart. Oh, there's only you. There's only ever been you. And to rest in the prayer field of light. There's only you. There's only you. To be absorbed in the frequency of only you, only this, only one, only the light. To be absorbed in the finest frequency that is available in as your nervous system, as your consciousness. And to know that the deeper resting here and drinking in the nectarine bliss of resting here and being the blissful flow of life that blesses itself and just dissolves into itself and drinks the nectarine bliss of itself and blesses itself with the illumination of itself. I see you in the light. I see you as you are. I see you as you are. I see every corner of my heart field as it is, and not as my mind has told me it is. I see every corner of my life, every fiber of my life, past and present. I see it now as the light, and I shine, and I shine, and I bless it all. And that blessing is like a flow of gratitude for it all. It's only one. It's only one. There is no other. There is no other. Only you, great glory. Only you, great glory. And just to soak in the radiance of the frequency as deeply as is possible. And it's not like it's a rebalancing that's happening. So it's not to feel like, oh, well, I'm not fully immersed and therefore it's not working or I'm not getting it. It's to recognize as deeply as you can feel the immersion, the spark, the light, the love, the frequency. Be nourished where you can be nourished, because it's the openness to be nourished, right? As deeply as you can be nourished, that carries the nourishment deeper. It's like it refines the system so that more bliss can be known, so that more light can be known, that the system starts to be nourished by drinking in its own bliss, right? It's like a hive of bees being nourished by their own honey, right? We're nourished by our own bliss. You see, nature gives us all the examples of how to live. We are to live as like a hive, right? Work as one, move as one, flow, live together, work together, be together, love together, be peaceful, be peaceful. Drink your own nectarine bliss and be nourished by your own nectarine bliss and thrive, right? So here we are in this beautiful field of light, of bliss, with it's like just an open possibility to just be nourished here. Just be nourished here in your own knowing. The knowing of the heart is the frequency of the nectarine bliss, where the consciousness is refining. So just resting here and just allowing the wisdom light to shine and the field, the flow of the field to just flow. Nothing to do, nothing to understand. It's all happening in the unseen. And yet, the more that we can perceive the subtle body, the light body, we start to be able to perceive more and more the wisdom of what is happening. Just to feel the peace, the nourishment, the aliveness, and the knowing of the heart. So precious, so very precious.